Hmm.
Fine.
We are live now.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Rahul. So, good evening, all of you. I welcome you all at Phoenix Literature Festival Asia. And today's topic for discussion is military dominance or soft power. Where is Asia heading? And we all know it's not Asia. Where is world heading? We understand through our two most beautiful panelists, most renowned panelists, that is Kulpreet Yadav and Dr. Saad Khan. So I welcome you both, sir, Kulpreet sir, as well as Saad Khan here at Phoenix Literature Festival Asia. And it's our privilege to host both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So friends, before moving on to show or before moving on to any discussion, let me first introduce both of you to you. So first I'll introduce Kulpreet Yadav, sir. So he's a product of the Naval Officers Academy. Kulpreet Yadav, sir, has spent 2 decades as an officer in uniform and has successfully commanded 3 ships in his career. Since his retirement as commandant from the Indian Coast Guard in 2014, he has authored several books in diverse genres, including espionage, true crime and response, and romance. I'm so sorry. He is a winner of the Best Fiction Author Award for Murder in Paharganj and Espionage. His book also won award at Gurgaon Literary Festival in 2018. He's also an actor and a filmmaker. He lives with his family in Delhi, and his latest book is The Battle of Rezang. So last somewhere, I think past, no, sir. So I hope something you're writing on this.
It's called Battle of Resangla.
Sangla. Okay.
Yeah.
Sangla. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I welcome you here at Phoenix Literature Festival.
Thank you.
And our next guest is Dr. Saad S Khan. Dr. Saad S Khan is a historian and political scientist with 8 acclaimed books to his credit. Dr. Khan has worked extensively on political Islam, South Asian strategic environment, and issues of governance and rule of law, especially in the context of the Muslim world. Presently, he is a full-time faculty member of National School of Public Policy, Lahore in Pakistan. He has a passion for military music and marching bands. This is something different that I just come to understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I welcome you here, Dr. Saad, here for this wonderful discussion that we are going to have right now. So I want to start with Kulpreet, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to start with Kulpreet, sir. Kulpreet, sir, my question will be, as we all know about the scenario of Ukraine, Russia, what's going on. So what do you think? What is the future of small countries among these big economies like US, Russia, or China as per the present scenario?
Okay, thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Shweta. What is the future of the small countries in the world? In relation to, you mentioned 3 names, Russia, America, and China. You have forgotten to include India, which is all right.
Yes.
I think the future is not looking very good. I'll be very honest.
Yes.
Everybody in the world thought perhaps we are moving towards peace. Perhaps we are moving towards forming consensus on, ecological and environmental disasters, which are now rapidly troubling us. Perhaps all of us were thinking that we were going more towards science and technology and moving away from biases and prejudices related to race, religion, ethnicity, region, caste, etc. But unfortunately, what is happening now, it's an indication of, it is not a healthy situation that all of us know.
Yes, sir.
The future of small countries, I would like to say that the future is of collaborations. The future is about finding your own strength and finding partners who believe in truth, who believe in justice. Like we have European Union, nobody can touch them. Perhaps there'll be days in the future where other smaller countries will also collectively. So you see, collectively, if we are united, that is a strength. So I think smaller nations should try to unite with each other. Having said that, it is also dangerous because if smaller nations unite and become a kind of de facto larger nation, then we have this bipolar or tripolar world, etc. So I don't think I really have an answer to this. I don't think anybody really has answer to this question.
Yeah, because we never knew what's going to be happen in the future. Means the future of small countries. So, Saad sir, what's your take on it? Like, what's the
I
future of small
think
countries?
smaller states would remain the way they were for the past few thousands of years. I mean, when the statehood started about 3500 BC, that either they would like to align with one or more regional or local powers, because the world order can be, bipolar like in the Cold War, or tripolar like it is now with the rise of China. But there are so many bipolar and tripolar orders in regions. I mean, for example, between Iran and Saudi Arabia within Middle East, and so many proxy wars being fought here and there, or Argentina or Brazil in Latin America, or Pakistan or India in South Asia. The smaller states, I don't want to name them, but throughout history, either they would be allied to one or the other big power and would act as satellite states or buffer states. They may be they may become protectorates. They may remain neutral or buffer when they are between two big powers. I mean, physically located two big powers. For example, Afghanistan, when it was locked between an expanding British Empire towards what is now Pakistan's western provinces, and the Soviet or the Russian Empire expanding to what are now independent Central Asian states. So I don't really think that powers have small nations have a very bright future. Actually, as Sir Kulpreet has rightly said, the bigger nations, for example, China or India or so many other countries, they are actually collectivity of hundreds of nations, with so many diverse ethnicities and religions and languages. And whether we like it or dislike it, the concept of international law of sovereign equality between nations, that is Maldives being an equal state, I mean, having sovereign equality in with, let's say, India, a country 1,000 times larger. That doesn't work in practice. That works in theory. It's very great, but you cannot have in the Indian Ocean an equal influence of the two nations. So that's my take on it, basically.
Yes, definitely, sir. So my next question means to Kulpreet sir, what do you think? Means how far is the military instrumental and influential in decision making in modern democracies? Do you think the recent muscle flexing by Russia and China too are under influence from their military establishments?
It's always been like that, So the governments normally, all their external policy takes into account what the military dictates, because military is not just extension, protecting your borders, but it is also a kind of an instrument that gives you leverage all around the world, which I think Russia and China very effectively they use them. Whether it is right or wrong is, of course, a very debatable and open question, and on both sides there can be very convincing arguments. So we will not come to a consensus or conclusion. What is happening right now in Russia is of course basics. Everybody knows they are using their military to annex a part of their erstwhile union, which they still consider to be their part. That is what is my understanding. I might be not 100% right, but that is what it is. That is always a danger when a nation, any nation for that matter, there's a beautiful English proverb which says power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you're big and powerful and you've got a powerful military, there is actually a a recipe for disaster for other smaller nations. So I was just trying to do a comparison between the Ukrainian forces and the Russian forces, and on paper, at least they don't see that much. I mean, it's not that much different. But of course, in reality, the situation is very different. Yeah.
It's really means really situation is really very tough. Like when the things we have more military power and we just, as you said, power is destructive sometimes. Not sometimes. Most of the times we use power in those things, and we are really witnessing in the world these whatever is happening right now. So, sir, what's your point on it?
On a lighter note, I think the big powerful people in bigger countries should stop going to gymnasiums. Stop building big bodies. You know what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah. So, Dr. Saad, sir, means what's your point on it? Like, yeah.
Actually, I think my feeling is that militaries are more powerful in democracies than in the military regimes themselves. For example, what happened to Rohingya community in Western Burma during a civilian government of NLD of Aung San Suu Kyi, who is herself a Nobel Peace Laureate. Or what is happening to Tigrayan people in northern Ethiopia in a civilian government, which is led by another Nobel Peace Laureate, Abiy Ahmed, is much more than the military governments could ever conceive of doing. For example, in East Pakistan in 1971, it has been less documented that once East Pakistan seceded and there was a massacre taking place of what we call stranded Pakistanis, the Urdu-speaking population there. It was more so where the civilian government of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was in command. And for the first 3 months, massacres almost did not take place where Indian forces were still present. So it seems counterintuitive that we would think that, okay, military would be, the demons in this case, which is not always the case. And the democracies, for example, the United States overseas adventures, have all taken place under democratic watch. So what I do think is that a military ruler probably does not trust or does not strengthen his military forces that much, because then he's afraid that another general would replace him. But the civilian governments are much more, into the habit of using their military might as an instrument of influence all over the world.
Yes. So, Kulpreet sir, my next question is means as I was preparing for this, I was just watching a video and by Yuval Noah Harari, and he actually has raised a good point. He said that almost last 40 to 50 years, if we see, means ignoring certain things, we are actually living in a very peaceful world after World War II, whatever we can say. And our military expenditure of countries have actually reduced. But Germany has shown it double just in a single day. So do you think it is a kind of, scared situation for this, the present situation is actually scaring other countries as well?
Of course it is. Of course it is, because earlier, as you rightly said, after World War II, in fact, India believed, our Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru believed that it is going to be, there is not going to be any future war. And he started a massive non-aligned movement, etc. And there was actually, after that, all the destruction and millions of people dying and all that people really believed that this is not the way to sort out your differences and the discussion, the United Nations, etc. All those things have happened. But now, in the present time, what is happening? So that is definitely sending a message to everyone that you got to put your house in order. You've got to really make sacrifices. Your government has to make sacrifices. People will have to make sacrifices, and buy weapons, buy aircraft, ships, etc. It is definitely not a healthy sort of a situation. It is something like this, if you live in a society and that society, there are a lot of theft cases, then obviously you will invest into a very good security system and you'll sacrifice
Yes.
your things. So it is definitely not sending a good message across, and there is going to be an arm race of sorts, not just among the bigger powers, but also in the smaller nations. And when you have an arm race between countries and you have a trigger happy head of the government at a particular time somewhere, things can go wrong at any time, and that can bring a lot of destruction. Like now, most of the countries have nuclear power plants. We really do not know what is the situation in Ukraine, and everyone believes that the fight is not really affecting those things that much. But if you are firing rockets all around a nuclear facility, things can always go wrong. It is something like smoking a cigarette at a petrol pump and hoping that things not go wrong. Probably it may not, but sometimes it might. So
Yes.
I don't think it's a healthy situation, but people will go towards buying weapons, etc. more.
Yeah, so the country's expenditure is more going into these things because as Germany has doubled it in a single day. So, sir, what's your point on it, Saad sir?
Basically, I don't think there is any free lunch in the world. So if there is a power crisis in Sri Lanka, for example, taking place, or fuel shortage
Crisis.
crisis, any country that goes in to help them would then definitely expect some diplomatic support on this thing or that thing. So if we do think that, the total altruism at least does not exist in international politics, that is what I think. So I also think that another phenomena that is taking place since the Ukrainian war is, being a student of military history, that we were in 16th, 17th, 18th centuries into what was called the first generation warfare. Then we went into second generation warfare. I won't detail what it is, but then it was the third generation warfare of tanks and artillery and two regular conventional forces fighting each other, like the three Indo-Pak wars or the Arab-Israeli wars. And for some time after Cold War, we were thinking that we were moving into fourth and fifth generation warfares. Fourth generation, where there is an invisible enemy, you are fighting the guerrillas and all that, and fifth generation, where it's more use of soft power and information and hybrid. Now, Ukraine war is very important for me, as is the war in Yemen and as is the war in Libya, Khalifa Haftar's attack on Tripoli. That after 30 years, we are going back to the third generation warfare. The physical conventional forces, tank and armored vehicles moving into the other territory of the other side, and physical tank and artillery battles taking place, and aircraft trying to hit the tanks below on the surface. We thought we had moved beyond that. And will it increase military spending? I think it's the other way around, because nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction and missiles and Star Wars are much more costly than the cost of a tank or an artillery piece. So what we thought was that we won't be needing conventional forces at all in the future. It's going in the reverse direction. From fifth generation, we are having physical attacks, the Battle of Marib, for example, in Yemen very recently, between the Houthi government of Yemen, which is based in Sana'a, and the SDC rebels. That was very interesting for me, that we are again going back to the type of warfare that we thought we left behind 40 years ago. So that's very important. But I would like to make a comment about Ukraine also.
Yes.
Because Ukraine is something that I think Putin was forced into it. Just assume that 10 or 20 years down the road, you have resurrected the Warsaw Pact, and Mexico and Cuba and Trinidad and Tobago are made members of Warsaw Pact, just on the side of United States. Just assume that California becomes independent from United States. After all, it was independent and it later joined. It was not the part of the original 13 states. Now United States has 50, by the way. And it suddenly joins a military alliance with China, with Beijing. What would happen? I think that whenever a war occurs, it's not one side which is the aggressor. Actually, the side which controls the information domain, more television channels and more access to internet, tries to portray a picture that the other side is aggressor. But we have to see who had committed diplomatic aggression first. That led to the situation.
So that is also one of the points. Yes, like for beautiful, sir. One more question came into my mind. Like as we have this nuclear pact and all, means we cannot drop nuclear weapons on other countries, like, and we are heading virtually, all of us, like we have AI, artificial intelligence. And yes, what means, and if we are really breaching that, what will happen in that case of artificial intelligence? Means will we feel that we are safe with those things?
I don't know how to answer this, because nuclear threat and artificial intelligence, how they're related, I'm not really understood properly. The application of artificial intelligence in the military is something which is at a very nascent stage, to my understanding.
Okay.
The artificial intelligence for consumer products and way of our lives, doing business with each other, etc., is at a little more advanced stage. So these two things, according to me, are not really related. So I don't know how to answer this.
So right now, suppose if I think, like, just you take it as an hypothetical condition, hypothetical situation, definitely artificial intelligence is going to, we were unaware about nuclear weapons also. So do you think this will really also going to impact and will impact more? What do you think, Saad sir?
Actually, I also belong to a generation where we don't much know what artificial intelligence is, except the word which is artificial intelligence, except that term. So much so that I had to depend on my son, who studies in A level in the 12th grade, to set me up this Zoom meeting. And had it been on StreamYard, he would have set it up for me. So
Beautiful.
I would be the very wrong person to be speaking on artificial intelligence. My son might be a better guest speaker for that. But what I think is that we have gone beyond nuclear warfare. I mean, that I think won't happen. One single attack on Hiroshima and another on Nagasaki was enough. But what I feel as a social scientist, I mean, I don't know the technicalities of it, but as a social scientist, I think what is more dangerous is not one country's, throwing military bomb on the other. What is what I call information warfare? And I've already predicted in my talks, especially to military institutions, that usually you have 3 military wings these days. Usually the United States has 6 and Saudi Arabia has 4, but generally, the army, the ground forces, the navy, the sea forces, and the air force. Within 10 to 20 years, we would have a full-fledged 4-star general of the information warfare.
I think sir has lost.
Yeah,
And what is the information warfare forces? One side is the general sense of them, in the generic sense, Facebook accounts that, okay, this country is criminal and they are, genocide, committing genocide of this community or that community. That will happen. I know, that goes beyond saying the generic meaning of information. But what is relevant to artificial intelligence is that I think there would be more and more nuclear disasters, because the countries would not be throwing nuclear bomb on other, but trying to gate crash into the nuclear networks, into the nuclear codes, into the machines. What the hackers in Iran and Israelis are doing with each other's, that is something very dangerous with nuclear installations. And the way North Koreans tried to hack United States networks when the movie on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ridiculing him was made, that can lead to anywhere from 10 years, 20 years down the road, and a big nuclear accident. caused by some other country trying to hack or trying to break into your codes may take place. That's the bigger danger, I think.
Yes, that is true, sir, because this is what I was also, maybe it's my, child idea like of artificial intelligence, though we have taken it as a very lighter manner, but still in the times to come, this is going to, take over everything. And then in that case, it is going to be really difficult, as the situation you really presented to us. This is what means I was thinking of. But sir, you have really presented a scenario where I can really, connect myself with the things that I really want to ask. So now, sir, as you have talked about Sri Lankan crisis also, so my question goes to Kulpreet, sir. Sir, day before yesterday, I was reading some article in The Hindu. So I read about that Sri Lankan economic crisis on power and fuel. Now, as we are spending a lot on war, like big countries like US, Asia, means can't they think of diverting their energies toward this side where the countries are actually needing something, means, and without any political or military agenda keeping in mind? Can we do this? Like,
So I don't know. It depends. It depends if it is a humanitarian crisis, which it is not right now. If it
okay,
is humanitarian crisis, the governments can, of course, reach out to their allies and ask for help. But I think what is happening in Sri Lanka is a crisis, perhaps I say, created by their own mismanagement of their assets and their foreign reserves, etc. From what little I know,
okay,
it is something like if you have a problem, you can definitely go to your friend. But at the same time, why did you have that problem? I mean, you got
understood.
to be careful and not not get into that situation. So it's unfortunate that they are in this kind of a crisis, and they just have about a month of fuel stock, and certain institutions and organizations are not working. The
Hmm.
vehicles are down, etc. It's very unfortunate. Sri Lanka is a neighbor of India, and we have great relations, like with all the neighbors. So we feel sad about it. But whether other countries are duty bound to come forward or help or not is, I don't think, is the right answer. As the situation unfolds, if they reach out to India, I'm sure, looking at the health of our foreign exchange reserves, uh, I don't know. I'm not a government representative, so I can't
Yes, yes,
comment.
yes.
But
Yeah.
still, I think a friendly country like India would definitely like to help out, and maybe train or share ideas with them, uh, so that they don't get into this kind of situation in the future.
Mhm. As I read that they may face it for next 6 months. So I think that is going to be a big situation for them. Let's see. So, sir, what's your point on it, Dr. Saad, sir?
Maybe I have some, you can say, problem with the question. When you asked that, isn't it time that we should spend less on military spending, on more on
Yeah.
development, etc. I don't think this is a binary. I don't think that if we spend less on military, we become more democratic, or if we spend less on military, then a power crisis doesn't occur. Actually, it's the other way around as far as my reading is concerned.
Yes,
The
sir.
G7 greatest industrial nations are exactly those who spent the highest on military over the previous 200 years. I mean, those countries like Japan and Germany and Italy, which lost the World War and now by their constitution are not allowed to spend so much on military, were
Hmm.
military powers pre-World War II.
Hmm.
And those other countries in G7 like United Kingdom, France, and United States are also among the top spenders in the military spending.
Military
We
spending.
did a similar analysis of the 8 relatively developed countries amongst the developing, because all 57 members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the umbrella body of Muslim countries, are developing nations. But within those, the D8, the fastest developing 8, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Turkey, Egypt, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, they were and Iran were exactly the 8 which had the largest spending on military amongst these 57 countries. So actually, from an ordinary gum with which you glue the pages to satellite imagery, everything came out of war spending in one country or the other country. So whenever there is a huge debate in Pakistan on military spending, it should be this much, and what is the optimal or optimum level of spending, that is very confusing. Because once you stop spending on a military in a democracy, then the democracy itself becomes under threat. Because the biggest, your first line of diplomacy is actually your army. So if you are talking eye to eye with another country, it
Yes.
means that your military was not so weak vis-a-vis that country. It doesn't have to be equal, but the other country doesn't have to be that overwhelming power that it can overrun you, like Russia can do to Ukraine, or United States, Iraq to
Yes, yes, yes.
vis-a-vis Kuwait or any country. So basically, I would agree with Sir Kulpreet that it is not a duty of another country to help if some country mismanages its power
Power or
crisis or power
power.
resources, but it is the duty of world community as a whole. The right to protect, the right to assist in humanitarian aid, which means that we have forums, United Nations and IMF and World Bank, which not only Pakistan, India, but Sri Lanka is also a member. But I know that because of the politics involved, if there is some hospital that Indian government would start building in Kabul, it would take 15 days for Pakistan government to announce what I would say counter hospital from Pakistani money in Kandahar, in another city of Afghanistan. So that would happen, in Sri Lanka as well. If one of the big countries helped, the other would just rush and be on the beeline. So that's another thing. But that's all politics. It has nothing to do with altruistic motives of any country.
I got it, Dr. Saad sir. Yeah, fine. So my next question is, dissolution of Soviet Union and fall of communist regimes in Eastern Europe, followed by several color revolution, led to a wave of democratization the world over. So, however, there has been an apparent reversal of the trend with military takeovers in Myanmar and Thailand in Asia and several countries in Africa in quick succession in recent years. So, do you think under such conditions, democracy is in threat?
Well, I don't know. See, military taking over a nation,
like in Myanmar or Thailand.
is often a kind of, if I can call it, an accident, which does not really have a happy outcome in almost all the cases. Why does it happen? Of course, depends on the nation in question. I don't think military, the way the military functions, I've been a part of military as well, is really attuned to run a state. Military is kind of attuned, and the nature of military is to protect the nation. And also, if required, in areas where the other government agencies cannot reach. If military has an infrastructure, they can go for humanitarian aid. Other than that, I don't think ever in the history a military has run a nation well. Maybe I don't have all the records, so I'm not an expert on this topic. Maybe there might have been exceptions. I don't know. Maybe there might be exceptions in the future. But looks like democracy is the best way forward. People choose their elected representatives. They are the ones who rule the country. The people bring them to power. The policies are decided by voting, and the nation goes forward on those lines. I think that's the participative and non-authoritarian way to do it. So the nations that you mentioned, I don't know, all the best to them. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So, Saad sir, what's your take on it?
Okay, I take it a bit differently. It goes without saying that democracy is the better system than a dictatorship. And generally, we assume military rule to be synonymous with dictatorship. But at least in the country I have lived most of my life, sometimes it had been, some of the most democratic things that one would imagine have taken place in a dictatorship, and had that military rule not come about, then we would have been living in an age of 50 years ago. For example, strengthening functioning local government, for example, that was a gift of one, let's say, military government. Or for example, the opening up of all television and all radio and newspaper channels was by another military government, which no civilian government wanted to. So when actually when military takes over, it's always an accident, but that accident only occurs when democracy fails. For a functioning democracy with which the level of satisfaction of the electorate is very high, it is well nigh impossible for military to just go in and take over, just take their tank and take over the presidency and nothing would happen. That doesn't work that way. I mean, if in United States, military cannot go and capture White House, there are reasons for that. United States says if they have $50,000 plus per capita income for everybody, then there would be no need of some savior. So what we have to look at how democracies are functioning. Those countries which had a lot of military interventions means that democracies were more undemocratic than the military regime they had. And that is why we have seen in many countries time and again, including the 3 countries in Africa that you referred to, that people came out on the streets distributing sweets that thank God we have been, liberated from this corrupt government or that corrupt government. So I have never seen in the worst of, cases in some Asian countries when a military president would be replaced by his son as the next military president, except for example, North Korea or Iraq, which are extreme cases and therefore exceptions. Usually in democratic countries, the military is a very professional body where you from second lieutenant to the general of 4-star, it takes time, it takes your mettle and so on and so forth. But all the 10 or 20 political parties in a given country, when the leader dies, his son or daughter takes over, and his son is underage than his wife. So I haven't seen, chief of army staff being replaced by his wife the moment he dies, or dies in an air crash or something. In the worst of cases, So these things which are happening have reason. We cannot just brush aside that okay, these are happenings. These did happen because in my own country, the only 4 times when we had 5.7% or 6% plus annual growth rate was when military regimes were there. I'm not a supporter of military at all, but the facts speak for themselves. I'm not saying that replace every democratic government by the military, but I'm saying that there has to be some check other than the parliament itself, where every parliamentarian's political career depends on the sweet will of the prime minister or the party leader, where they outperform the military regimes that the same country had, be it Niger, be it Burkina Faso, be it Thailand. And that's the way to avoid further military coups.
Got it, sir. Yes. So, Kulpreet, sir, seeing the present scenario, and we come on to a lighter mode also. So, seeing this present scenario, also, like, what do you think? Where is world heading? As per as our theme today, also, is it towards dominance, military dominance, or soft power? And what do you think? What are the practical ways to be soft power?
So earlier, all of us thought it was mixture of soft power and the military might, but now it appears that soft power has perhaps gone out of the window, so to speak. Military power is everything. What constitutes soft power is, of course, things like language, culture, food, history, cinema, the kind of things that America and Canada and Australia and most of the European countries are able to do extremely well. Yes. And all our children want to go and settle down there, including mine. So that is soft power. So soft power, as per my understanding, of course, there are multiple interpretations and overlaps what people say. But when you win people by your language, culture, and your artistic ability, that is soft power. India had that kind of soft power, I think perhaps in the 60s and 70s, when anywhere you go, Bollywood still rules now, but earlier it was very different. Even far away in Russia or in Lebanon or Pakistan, always been there. Pakistan, Bangladesh, apart from South Asia, but also in Africa and Europe, etc. That is the true soft power, I think.
Okay. So what's your take on it, Saad sir?
In my view, actually, hard power will have its heyday as long as humanity inhabits this planet. Soft power never replaced hard power, right? So, soft power only supplemented hard power, and soft power, which includes everything, as Kulpreet said, movies and language and cuisine and so many things. When I thought that China would, as a political scientist, as a writer, I started thinking China is going to rise as a global power, was when one Chinese restaurant in the city of Islamabad multiplied into 20 over a period of 6-7 years. When the first ever Chinese language center started, opening up in the private sector. So they have enough market for 20 or 30 students learning Chinese language. Otherwise, it was only English language learning centers in the country.
Yes.
So an ordinary citizen sitting here thinks that even if he learns Chinese, because the English language market is so much saturated, so it makes sense for him to spend 1 year and all the fees and high living costs in big cities to learn Chinese. So but the Chinese language, or the Manchurian chicken would never replace Chinese missiles to make Pakistan do or not to do, or any other country to do, or not to do what China wants. What had been in the past 30 or 40 years after the end of Cold War, because Cold War was basically hard power sort of thing, was smart power. The alternating use of hard power, followed by soft power, followed again by hard power, and then using soft power under the threat of hard power, right? So that's how the things were working till date. The smart power, the combination, the right combination, apt combination of hard and soft power. But your question is about the future. Whether the future would be, dominated by hard power or the soft power.
A soft power.
My think, let me coin another term here in this interview. There would be something called hard soft power, right? Not the soft power of just a Hollywood movie in which we are so fascinated by the Hollywood movie, but Hollywood movie hammering a point whether whatever Russia did in Ukraine was wrong, right? So whatever, just when the Ukraine war started, Sputnik was banned all over Europe. RT, Russia TV was banned, Russia Today, and everything that would give an alternate view. You were not, countering soft power with soft power. You're not countering RT with CNN. You were first of all banning, Sputnik and RT. You were arresting and harassing their, journalists. You were blocking the, the relay stations and the cable TV networks not to run them, and then you were winning from the soft power. So actually, what would happen in future is that soft power would be used in very, very hard ways, and that's why I always say that armed forces are going to have a fourth wing of fighting the soft power. The people who would just be, managing the tweets of something, a person killed in road accident, and being shown as being killed by police brutality of that country because you don't simply like that country. So that's how I foresee the future of having whosoever can use soft power in a hard way is going to win.
Interesting.
Beautiful to understand. This is very interesting. Means hard soft power and using the soft power in a hard way and giving a good example of it. Good. So, Kulpreet sir, the next question is, as we all know, we are mocking UN a lot these days. What's your take on it? Like,
take on what?
Means, what should they do? Like, we have memes a lot on, Facebook and all about UN not interfering or whatever be. So what's your take on it?
Oh, United Nations. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Oh, I'd forgotten that United Nations probably existed 1,000 years ago. So I don't remember.
It was like a joke from your side.
Yeah. So I'm very poor at, like a typical military guy, very poor at cracking jokes at the right time. But sometimes,
but it was right at the right time.
I can probably have extra drink tonight.
And it was in a very serious manner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. So that particular photograph, which is very popular now, what is that? UN on the helmet and something in the background. What is that? I don't recollect it specifically, but it's there all over the net.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. It's very sad, but I think this was waiting to happen because let's face it, the United Nations was created with the mentality that bigger countries are going to behave, and they had the power and authority. It is like an extended family where you know the master of the family and two, three more people, brothers and sisters and wives, are the all-powerful ones, and they're going to manage everyone and discipline everyone. But if they themselves go haywire, then what happens?
Yes.
So it's a, I think some kind of hybrid model will come, obviously, in the future. But I think in the current, because of the current crisis, UN has faced a lot of criticism in the past also. But I think this is the final straw on the camel's back. I think probably there should be a change, and they have to. You just can't create a system where it benefits only to few, and others have to just follow the rule.
Yeah, definitely,
So,
sir.
yeah.
Beautiful
But
point you have.
but when I see the statements of Secretary General, and I'm not trying to say that United Nations has not done great job. I mean, of course, all of us know they have done absolutely fantastic and incredible job. Uh, I mean, I'm nobody to even say this. All of us know what United Nations have done and continue to do through their various organizations, and how many dedicated people who go out of their beyond the call of duty to do so much for the world. I'm specifically talking about uh, with reference to what is happening in Ukraine and why the veto power and the top control of the bigger nations has to go, and some kind of independently maybe nominated or elected people need to be there in place of countries to manage. Whether they will also come under influence of these nations or not, of course, one can't tell. And what will be the solution is too intelligent a thing for me to answer, perhaps. But I'm sure there will be a change, or at least there'll be tweaks which will be useful for the world.
Yeah, there should be. There should be, I think. So what's your take on it, Saad sir?
I think the old business is not going to last long. Although I agree with Sir Kulpreet that it is United Nations has done a fantastic job. But by any standards, I mean you cannot compare the 75 years after the United Nations was created. I mean that's actually an assignment given to me, a project to I have given to some of my students to try to come up with figures and facts about the 75 years immediately preceding the creation of United Nations, that is from 1870 to 1945, and immediately after the creation of United Nations, and the next 75 years from 45 to 2020, and come up with exact figures how many people have been killed in the warfare before and after, right? So the intensity of warfare, the frequency of warfare, the duration of warfare. I mean, before United Nations, 16-day war and 12-day war and 6 days war were unheard of, because the moment hostilities start, the Security Council also starts meeting, and sometime in 10 or 20 or 30 days they convince the two sides that it's futile fighting, fighting on. And 8 years or 10 years war like in Congo or Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, and Vietnam are an exception. And 10 days, 20 days war, even in bigger nations like India and Pakistan, were the norm before the things change again because of nuclear warfare and fourth generation and everything. So that is something that the United Nations has to be given credit for, and that's what I foresee happening in Ukraine as well. That war may not last, too long because of the very existence of United Nations, whether the resolution was vetoed or not. During 1971 India-Pakistan war, 18 of the UN Security Council resolutions were vetoed in 13 days by one side or the other, but the war did start, whatever the reason might be. But the United Nations role, underlining whatever happened, underpinning what happened subsequently cannot be underestimated or undercalculated, by the way. But on the other hand, the countries which were great powers in 1945, on whom sun never set, are very, very small countries now. United Kingdom and France of 1945 and 2020. And in 10 years down the road, maybe Scotland and England would be separate countries. So who knows? I mean, that are predictions by very renowned and established and reliable think tank. So having them as a permanent veto holding power and not several other countries which rose in those, 3/4 of a century, that is something very, very, undemocratic and I would say immoral. So and at that time, by the way, when you had a 11-member Security Council, now it's 15 member, there were total 51 members of the world community, 51 sovereign states. Now there are 200, right? Nearly 200. So the plan A and plan B of ex-Secretary General Kofi Annan, on some other way, whatever takes place, the old game is finished. It's a matter of time now that we would have an expanded, more representative, more less racist. I mean, every third country being a white country in a 15-member, Security Council where their population may be 1/10 of the world population. So that's not going to last. So we have to think seriously, and that seriousness includes some type of, collaboration between old rivals in the developing world. For example, if Pakistan keeps fighting that India shouldn't have a Security Council seat, and vice versa, and Pakistan tries to have its seat by saying that 57% OIC members must have at least 2 seats in the expanded Security Council, because even if we 24-member Security Council, none of the 57 Muslim countries is there, then it would be problematic. And those arguments which are sort of taking place in the Muslim world for the past 20 years, that's not going to work. We have to understand the bigger nations, maybe, top 5-6 countries of the world by economy, top 5-6 countries or 8 countries which are nuclear powers, top 5-6-7 countries by population size. I mean, there has to be a criteria which is across the board. I mean, you cannot pick and choose. There cannot be any cherry picking. So when the Security Council expands, so people understand that there was some universal and uniform formula which decided it. So that's my take on the future of United Nations.
This is true. Universal and unique means a uniform formula for everyone. It's like, just wait. Okay, someone called me. Just wait. I just have to go. Thank you, sir. So now we come to a lighter note, and we'll talk a bit about your books. Both of you are great writers, great authors, and I really gained a lot from you regarding whatever the things that are going on. And yes, you have given a lot of food to my, thought process to think about, world, the politics, and a lot of things. And I really want to gain a lot of food from you regarding your writing styles. You both are great authors. So Kulpreet sir, just can you please tell something about your books, your genre of writing, reading, or something like that, if you can put some light on it.
Okay, so I started writing in 2006 at the age of 36 or so. So I started late. Till that time, I had absolutely no idea that I wanted to write. But of course, I had been a reader, not of military history or not of non-fiction that much, but mostly of crime and thrillers and espionage kind of books, because I think youngsters usually like that kind of. My father, who was in the Indian Air Force, he introduced me to, crazy a writer at that time, which continues to be most fascinating for me till now. That is James Hadley Chase. So 104, 105 of his books I had read, and of course other common books like Sidney Sheldon and Frederick Forsyth and Ian Fleming or whatever that time, espionage mostly. So how can I sum up my journey of last 15 years in a few sentences? So I started writing in 2006. The first book was a failure. Nobody published my second book. It has not been published till date. Nobody published my third book. It has not been published till date. I went into a depression. So not a clinical depression, because that is something that rich people get into. So a normal depression, which means going to the bar more often, drinking more often. So my friends, who were officer uniform, they said, Kulpreet, what the hell are you doing? You become a senior officer. Why don't you enjoy life now? Why you want to get into a new space? And I don't know, somehow that challenged me, and I said, no, I'm going to do something. So I spent a few years writing only short stories, honing my skills, etc. And then few good things happened. Of course, espionage novels have come.
Yeah.
But I think I've really seen success. If it can be called success, I'm still a long way off, I think. That has happened for the last just 3 or 4 books of mine. And the latest one is called, for those of you listening in, the latest one is a military history non-fiction book called Battle of the Zangla. That was a battle that was fought between the Indian Army and the Chinese Army at a place called Zangla in Ladakh region. India had, of course, very humiliatingly lost the 62 war, but this brave stand of 120 Indian Jawans, 110 were martyred. 2 of them were related to me. I've been listening to the stories of these brave soldiers all my life, and I thought I must write about it. I don't claim to be a proper military historian in that sense, but I spent about 2.5 years researching and writing about this book, and this is done a little better. And I'm currently writing a book on 1965, one of the battles in the Kashmir between India and Pakistan. So I might write 1 or 2 books more, and I've experimented with different genres. I've also written a romance novel to prove a point to my wife. I think she's not listening, and I think that is done reasonably as well. I'm not very seriously committed to military history or any other academic subject of that kind. I don't claim to be. I'm a filmmaker. I've made 3 short films. I've made a song. I'm going to be making a feature film soon, if all goes well. I have tried my hand at acting. I'm also an entrepreneur. I have 2 startups. I don't know which direction I will take in the future. I think we live in very exciting times. You can do whatever you want today.
Yes.
You know, earlier it was not possible. You could not do a business unless your father had money or you had, money somewhere. Today you can start a business without anything, which is what me and my other co-founders are doing. So we live in very exciting times. I'll be writing 1 military non-fiction. After that, probably I may not be writing on this subject. Sorry, long answer.
No, not long answer. Like, I've learned a lot from you. Like, as you said that your first book not published, it's kind of you have given me an inspiration. Like, I am as an author also struggling with, definitely books are doing good, but still, you want something. I think that is the kind, you just keep walking, you just keep doing your things, and the times are really good where you can try your hands at everything. This is wonderful to pick from you, Kulpreet sir. This is lovely that you have given to us. So sir, your journey as in
Okay, so my journey started a bit earlier at the age of 24 when I finished my first book and on political Islam. That was eventually published by Oxford University Press, and that was a big honor. The first academic book being published at age 24 by Oxford University Press. But it took 3 years because they had a long queue of waiting, and that was the average gestation period at that time in late 1990s. So when it was published, I was well past 27, and then I continued, and so far it has been 8 books. So I started. I've, like every author, your initial books do not get published because publishers usually look for acclaimed or famous authors because they want an investment to be secure. So one senior author, I just asked him that what to do. My books are not selling. So he said that you should have, remembered the golden rule that just before submitting your first manuscript to anybody, you should have already become an established author. Right, so actually it simply cannot happen with anybody. It's a chicken and egg story because no publisher would take your book unless you're an established author, and you are not an established author until you have a few books published. So every on a serious note, author has to go. Even the Nobel laureates in economics to literature, they have to go from in the same cycle. So I continued to write on political Islam, but then I found out that that the top was saturated. There were so many experts from United States to Delhi and Islamabad and Dhaka that it would take years and years and years to or maybe decades to find a niche. I had another parallel interest in South Asian history. So I wrote on a few books in over the period of the next 3 decades, next 2.5 decades, on Muhammad Ali Jinnah's life. And one of the books co-authored with my wife was on Mrs. Jinnah, Ratti Jinnah, that was published by Penguin, the woman who stood defiant, because I think that was an understudied aspect of Jinnah's life, how much she influenced him on whatever he was, his own personality, and Mrs. Jinnah's own personality has been understudied.
Yeah.
So that was and one of my passion was military studies and governance issues, and being a civil servant, career civil servant in the government, I couldn't do that, and that's what I am retiring. I'm waiting for my retirement to start working on that with a lot of vigor. All I could write on military was my book, When Military Wages Peace, published around 4 years ago, which was about the role of military bands in diplomacy and warfare. Why do military bands exist in the modern world? Why did they exist in the ancient world? What was their exact role, in communication during on the battlefield? Drums for marching and trumpet for attack orders, and so on and so forth. And even now, if another in a state visit, another head of state is coming, why does a military band go to the Rashtrapati Bhavan or the presidential palace of that country? So that was my book on military studies to date. And by the way, I have something common with Sir Kulpreet, that I also made a documentary. Again, that was documentary on military music. And that's my only experience, my debut with filmmaking so far. But one thing I differ with Sir, because he wrote a romantic novel, but I would like my wife to feel that I would be more romantic in the real life than in a novel. So I hope she would be happy with that. So because she's usually the first one to start listening to my lecture or my panel talk wherever I am, and I don't know where she is now, but wherever she is, I know, even if she's traveling, she's listening to it because she's the keenest. So that was about romance. But yeah, what exactly I want to talk about is that my future endeavors. In fact, I'm working for the past 2-3 years on 2-3 books, actually. One is about the paramilitary forces, the Rajakars, the Al-Badr and Ashams, which supported Pakistan Army, and their history has gone nowhere. Nobody documented that in 1971 war and the civil war preceding it. And what happened to thousands of people? Some of them were tried, some of them amalgamated into mainstream political parties in Bangladesh, some of them relocated to Pakistan, and so on and so forth. But as less and less people who fought in the 1971 war or the civil war preceding it in then East Pakistan pass away or fade away, it would be very difficult to write that book 10 years or 20 years down the road. So I'm taking notes, I'm taking interviews. So that's one of the book that is in the works. Another one again in 1971 is about several failures of Pakistani armed forces, which were part of the the strategy. For example, blocking the Chicken's Neck, which was India's land corridor with the 7 sisters, the 7 states, which was but these and many other things I cannot say on the interview. But as a historian, these were few things that pricked me, and my career wouldn't or didn't allow me to say something about it, and that's why I'm not saying anything about it beyond that. I'm writing on it. So when I would have the same freedom that Sir has after retiring from the service, so those are the books that I am already working on, and they would be completed from a perspective of a military historian and a strategist, not from taking side with one side or the other, but as a scholar of military history. These are some of the things that have to be documented. And one of the things I'm working on is Pakistan's own war on terror, the military strategies and the soft power strategies that were utilized to fight the militants. And that was a 21-year war, which led to more military deaths and police deaths than the 3 Indo-Pakistan wars combined. So that's another thing. But all those would come. Let my readers wait for my retirement.
So we'll wait. We'll definitely wait for that. So it was nice talking to both of you, sir. But just this last question means your last message to our viewers means what should they do to become a global citizen with soft powers rather than means yeah.
Global citizen, I think first of all, people should read, people should have an open mind,
Yes.
people should travel to absorb different cultures, different
Yes.
ethnicities. People should be sensitive to each other, responsible. I don't want to sound preaching like a Dadaji or something, you know, such bolo, bado ke pouch ho kind of
Sahi
thing.
baat.
No, times have changed, but definitely there is no replacement to gaining insights through books which have been written
Yeah.
by other people of flesh and blood, equally good or bad like us, and their experiences are ready-made available in libraries, and you must spend a couple of hours every day if you can, and evening. I don't think we have in Asia. Uh, Nobody reads after finishing their college and getting into a job, and definitely not after marriage because you spend your time reading your partner. But I think in the evening you need to spend, and that culture is there in the Western countries. It is there in Asia also to a certain extent, but perhaps the youngsters who when you're young, but I don't know what to say. When you're young, you're careless, but I think reading, traveling,
Reading.
being open, being mature. Maturity will of course come by all these things, and that is what you should do. And you should, I think, as youngster today in the world, you should be very happy. You keep reading in newspaper, this is happening or that is happening, or this disaster, that disaster. This is nothing in comparison to what used to happen in the past. Right now, there's information age, so everything becomes known very fast. Due to technology, world has become smaller. It is possible for you to move to places faster. It is possible for you to collaborate with international partners, do businesses. If you want, if your heart, beats for doing a humanitarian thing, if you have that inclination, which every human being should have, then you should. It is possible today to do all that. So that is what I would say, and that will make anybody a good global citizen.
Global
But good
citizen.
question. I think this question will remain with me for some time. What can youngsters do to become good global citizens?
Citizen.
Aaj tak people used to ask, what can you be to become a good Indian or a good Pakistani, or a good Chinese? But becoming a good global citizen for a youngster, I think, is a great question. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. I means we are now the globe is shrinking. What I think it's the internet has actually shrunk everything. So now we have to think from a different perspective, not being a country oriented, like globe oriented. That would be better for them. So, what's your message to the viewers?
Actually, because I have two youth in my house, my two sons. So what I have found over the years is that they are global citizens already.
Yeah.
When I was growing up in the city of Lahore, which is my birthplace also, somebody once told me about pizza, and I didn't know what it meant. And I dreamed that one day I would have a pizza. And I was told that the nearest place to have it would be Italy. When you grow up and you have enough money, you can travel abroad and you can go and eat pizza. But now it's every nook and corner where you have a pizza, every nook and corner where you have a McDonald's M, every nook and corner where you have a Lebanese shawarma in Lahore. The nearest place is now 5 minutes walk from my home because there are so many shawarma houses and all. My son sometimes ask me, Papa, what do we say it in Urdu? The language they speak, but there's so much English sprinkled in it that they are on a look for what is it said in Urdu, where, for example, in a school stage show, they have to speak in Urdu. And their Urdu is like, 80% English words. And, so from food to language to habits to their favorites. We had favorites in our youth, our own cricket stars. My son's is like Maradona, who recently died in Brazil. Now our heroes or the singers do not need to be South Asian, because one son would be a Brazilian hero, would be having a Brazilian hero, and another would be having a British singer or an actress or an actor as his hero. So we have already moved to that, whether we like it or not. When we talk about to diaspora in there is a politics to every rivalry, be it Indo-Pak rivalry or any rivalry.
Definitely.
There is an economy to every conflict, be it the war on terror or, that politics and that, economy keeps the rivalries and, conflicts alive. But when we talk about global citizens, there are about 32 million Indian diaspora and 12 million Pakistani diaspora. So those 44 million, when you go to United States, these communities are gelled like anything, because those South Asians, you were having intermarriages, having, each Holi and Eid celebrations together, which politics might not allow here, but they're. So when, for example, India tries to promote its soft power, it helps Pakistan's soft power abroad as well. Because when there's a Bollywood movie being, shown in a cinema in UAE, in Dubai, 50% of the audience is Arabs, native Arabs, who don't know a word of Arabic or Hindi, but for those movies. So when Urdu or Hindi is making inroads, actually it's Bollywood which is helping Pakistan. So-called Indian restaurants everywhere. Half of them run by Bangladeshis, the other quarter each by Indian and Pakistanis. So when you go into the South Asian cuisine in London or Tokyo, then you get Pakistani biryani and India's paneer kadhi together at the same, and for them we are South Asians. So actually the transition to global citizen is already happening. The right-wing parties in Hungary or right-wing parties in Pakistan or India or right-wing parties in anywhere in the world, they are trying how to stop it, and they cannot, whatever they do and whatever they wish. So happy being global citizens, youngsters.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, both of you. I've learned a lot, and it was nice talking to both of you. I had a really pleasurable time with both of you, sir. So I think here we should take a leave. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one last point. So Dr. Saad, it's a pleasure to speak to you. We've heard so much about the legendary hospitality of the people of Lahore. I've never been there, but it's so lovely to listen to you and your wonderful points. I was looking up about you. I followed you on Twitter earlier this morning, and I would be looking forward to reading your book on Ruti Jinnah, because I did read a little bit about it, and I think you've spent considerable amount of time researching and traveling. And I think that was a very, very tragic life of that woman who got married at 19 and expired at 29. But she did have a lasting impression on Mohammad Ali Jinnah and the creation of these two states. So I would be definitely looking forward to reading that, and I'll get back to you with my feedback as well. Thank you very much.
And that would be lovely. I would love to have you in Lahore someday. And I would ask you to remember following my tweets after I retire, because 95% of the thing I cannot tweet because of the restrictions of service. Right?
All right.
Definitely, sir. We'll be waiting for it.
Yeah. Thanks, Shweta. Thanks to you also, and thanks to Rahul.
Thank you, sir.